Good evening, everyone. I truly trust that you will be fine wherever you are. And today's topic that we will be covering through this session will be the French Revolution of 1789. Before we commence, let me be very clear regarding this session, not to kill your excitement, that mostly the students they are more towards the dramatic events that take place in any revolution, let it be the French one, the American, or the Russian revolution. Uh, more emphasis goes towards like what happened to the Tsar's family, and then the conspiracies. Well, did anybody survive or not? Same is the case with the French Revolution, how they were beheaded, this sort of thing. But just like any sane discussion, we will be looking into the events which played their role towards this event. So our focus will be not to the not to the situational aspects that happened as a result of the revolution or immediately the aftermath of the revolution, but things, the build-up that led to the events in 1789. So France was the power center for the European politics, the age of colonialism, discovery that was led by France and Great Britain. So it was a major powerhouse, and the technology, the arts, the culture, everything stemmed out of it. The royal house of France, led by the Louis in succession up till the Louis XVI, they were always in the power center of the foreign policy. They were like the movers and shakers of the Europe. So it was a very progressive empire from the outset. However, internally there were deep marred issues that we will discuss one by one, and for that it holds very significance in Europe when this revolution happened and the royal demise happened. For that, it holds a very important aspect in the age of enlightenment, Renaissance, because they were the precursor to the entire series of revolution that we witnessed. So we come to the strategic position of France before the revolution, and you see, it was a huge empire that controlled quite a sizable influence across the continents. And we come to the social structure, which remains the primary cause of this revolution deprivation, which acts as the few. So primarily, it was the monarchy that we will discuss, the absolutism, which it practiced. Then they were specialized classes which were held in privilege. One was the clergy, the church, the Catholic Church of France. It exercised greater influence on the policy making, and not only that, it was exempted from the system of taxation, and in fact paid in terms of perks to the bishops and to the upper strata. And although down the line the priests, the nun, they were somehow revolutionary because they were seeing the disparity between the classes that was happening. Then we come to the second estate, the second strata, and that was the nobility that comprised of a multiple feature, the royal bloodline, people from the royal house, then the dukes, the lords, and the privileged one, the feudals. They formed the nobility. Again, they were benefiting by exploiting the third strata, which was the peasants, the educated, the working class, the bourgeoisie, the skilled people. They were in the third category, and they were exploited by the feudals, which were and the nobility. They were primarily ruling them. So on from the clear point of view, you see that there is a huge inequality, which is like a volcano that will erupt, because at the end of the day, to maintain the status, the privileges of the top three, that is the monarchy, the clergy, and the nobility, the last one, which was by that time, with the dawn of the enlightenment, the ideas of self-rule, the Republic, they were feeling very much infuriated for contributing to the privilege of the other three just by the context that they were not born in that category. So that created a huge gulf between the top three spheres and the last one. And just to tell, 1% of the population was represented by the clergy, 2% by nobility. So the rest 97% was primarily under the grinding mill, making up all the efforts, paying the taxes, huge taxes, and getting nothing in return. And that was the case. So then comes which features as the most important aspect in the two revolutions that we will definitely discuss. One is the French we are discussing right now, and then the Russian Revolution. Absolutism, that's as old as one can go back, where the kings they enjoy a feeling of divine right, that they are blessed, they are endowed to rule over the people who are not fit enough to decide for themselves, and they are the absolute ruler on ground, and they get their line straight from the creator. And this thing has been centric to all the major revolutions in that era. And the House of Bourbon, there was no different. It came into existence, into spotlight in 1257, till their demise from France in 1789. And you see the reign, it's almost 6 centuries, and that was ended with the French Revolution, and King Louis the 16th was the last one. So absolutism doesn't guarantee any sort of rights to its populace, to its subjects, and based on that, there is a very close circle of trustworthy, the decision maker and the privileged class, which in case of France that we discussed was the clergy and the nobles. And based on that, from the population, this distance becomes so huge that they do not feel the pulse, and that's where the problem occurs. It's not the new democracy where by elections or by democratic right the people can express themselves after a few years. There's the reign going on, then the new king comes, he comes with his own ideas, which are usually more harsh. However, in the case of Louis and Tsar Nicholas in Russia, they both were, and my understanding is, at a wrong place at a wrong time. They were primarily people stuck in a role which they couldn't get off from them. The burden of legacy and the huge pressure of the near ones, the clergy, the nobles, and that made them something which was stationary. They just couldn't move, and even if they tried to move, it was impossible. The pest intrigues and everything, that was something which was inevitable. It had to happen. So while they were practicing absolutism, with a feeling that they can maneuver everything, whatever they will decide in terms of ventures, in terms of everything, the people will contribute, pay the taxes, and they will earn the glory. There was enlightenment that was coming on. The stages, Renaissance, and then enlightenment, and what it was that the questioning, the divinity, where everything is followed either by the church or by the monarchy, that was being challenged, and it was challenged with the thirst for education, with the thirst for right. So in that case, these ideas couldn't be locked. They were locked for some time through brutal means, but that was unsustainable, and this is what happened in all the cases. At the end of the day, the ideas of equality, rise against injustice, the revolution. A revolution cannot breathe without injustice. There has to be injustice or some mistakes which end up igniting the revolution. Same was the case here. At that time, people were reading, they were getting enlightened with the ideas of people like John Locke, Rousseau, Voltaire. They were contributing greatly to the social structure, to the injustice to humans by giving up ideas people's government, self-rule, the right to decide, live, liberty, freedom. While on the other hand, it's the time-tested old wine of absolutism that a certain class has the right to rule over you. That wasn't getting accepted. So this was the same case with the France. And then we come to some other crisis. And while by the turn of 17th century, France was unmatched in terms of its wealth, but as I said, the glory of the king and the country was too much to hold for the financials of the system, which was already marked with a lot of flaws. And those who were contributing, they were in such an oppressed status that there was no progression, and the adventurism was rising. So in case of France, the taxation system, that was absolutely unjustified. The perks to the privileged classes were rising, while on the other hand, the condition on ground was really deteriorating. It was the age of industrial revolution. Of course, it was happening, but at a very slow pace. So the wheel of the economy wasn't spinning, and coupled with that, some very critical engagement in terms of foreign policy. One is the 70 War, that was primarily a very huge and significant major European struggle for dominance, and huge commitment from France. And the end that gave a lot of steam to the British-Prussian alliance. The France lost it. However, the engagement was too much, and that really dented the repute as well of where the king stands in terms of the 70 War. They lost, and then it was the American Revolution. Now, to counter British, American revolutionaries were hugely sponsored by the French. They provided them with troops, with supplies, and then they were confronting. Their navy was confronting the British Navy head on, and this engagement will lead to the American Revolution. It was a great victory for France, but it was a huge dent to their economy and their moral standing, because at one place they were helping Americans led by George Washington to rise against the rule of the British monarchy, the taxation system, the exploitation, while at home they were practicing the same. So the seeds of them had to impact the local society of France, and this is what happened. That's why when they contributed to American Revolution, it influenced the French Revolution by all manner. And again, when misfortune comes, they come in a battalion, and while there were a lot of problems going on towards the aristocratic the revolution and uprising, because by 1987 Louis was pursuing changes, adding nobles and clergy to the taxation net, cutting down their perks, and they were fighting back very aggressively. And then there were parliaments, the local court, which were challenging the king's rule. There was a huge struggle going on leading up to the State General, the assembly, which wasn't called since 1600, which the king had to call, and there the people's will prevailed, because that led to the formation of the National Assembly and the Constitution. And finally, the door was shown to the king. His brutal demise, that was in 1792. That is something that we will discuss later on, but we are focusing on the causes. And food shortages played a very important role in the Russian Revolution. Same was the case in the French Revolution. And by 1788, there was the shortage of bread, prices went high. The class, 97% of people which were contributing, uh, working with their sweat and blood in the field, they were not getting what they had produced. The harvest that was going to the parties and the kitties of the nobles of the monarchy, while they were struggling in line fighting for a piece of loaf, and there was no way injustice of this sort could have prevailed, and it led to what is known as the revolution. People storming the Bastille. The king had to bow before the people, and there was no way he could have resisted. And then, with time, it was the royal family which was marched from Versailles to Paris, and then the monarchy was abrogated, and then it's a long, violent way up till the rise of Napoleon that we will also cover. However, uh, for the student of history, it is important that by not adopting to the change, to the pulse of the people, to their ideas, that by all means was something France monarchy couldn't hold on to. And the system they erected of nobility, clergy, it became the shackle for them, because when it was time to break them, they turned against them. By all means, we will try to go deeper into this thing, that how this class played and eventually how did they benefit or they did not benefit. So we will discuss these philosophical topics as well. But for today, that's your insight into the French Revolution, the causes, and hopefully see you very soon. Thank you very much.